I think the thing I appreciate about Sophie more than anything is like she's never intimidated of the moment. Like she rises to the occasion every single time. You know, she's gonna have her teammates back.
I love how butt hurt people are about this. It's delicious. Agreed. That shit's going straight to Walmart for $19.99. I bet she sells a shit ton of these shoes. I mean, seriously. What the fuck did she do to earn a shoe? They are so mad. They are so mad.
And it literally like pisses me off when people are like, she's not the face of the league.
Who would be?
What?
Sabrina? No.
No, there's really good, well-known people in our league. I'm not discrediting them. Like, we have a lot of badasses in our league.
Yeah.
Like, hell yeah to that. I'm all for that. But when people try to argue that she's not the face of our league,
Yeah.
or if our league would be where we're at without her, you're dumb as
Yeah.
You're literally dumb as
Something happened this week that split WNBA fans into two very loud camps, and if you have not seen it yet, you are about to understand exactly why timelines everywhere are on fire, because Caitlin Clark did not just quietly support a teammate, she went all in, publicly, enthusiastically, and completely unapologetically, and the internet has feelings about it, strong ones on both sides. And by the end of this video, you will understand why this tiny moment between two teammates somehow turned into one of the biggest storylines in women's basketball this summer. So stick around, because the layers here go deeper than a shoe launch. This is about loyalty, resentment, star power, and what happens when the most famous athlete in a league decides to spend her influence on someone else instead of herself. And it starts with a shoe, a very specific shoe, dropping on July 24th, priced at $120. A player-exclusive colorway built around Sophie Cunningham, a role player who has spent years grinding in the background before suddenly becoming one of the most talked about names in the sport. And when word got out that this shoe was happening, most people expected the usual, a polite congratulations post, maybe a quick shout out, the kind of thing athletes do for each other without really meaning it. But that is not what happened here, because Clark did not treat this like a footnote, she treated it like an event. She talked about it in interviews before anyone even asked. She pushed her own massive platform behind someone else's business deal, and that decision alone is what lit the fuse. Because in professional sports, especially at the level Clark operates at, stars protect their own brand first. That is just how it usually works. The biggest name on the roster stays focused on their own deals, their own image, their own bag, and everyone else fights for scraps of attention. But Clark broke that unwritten rule in front of everyone, and she did it on purpose. And to understand why she did it, you actually have to rewind back to 2024, back when Clark was a rookie getting thrown into a league that was not exactly rolling out the welcome mat. She was getting hit hard, repeatedly, and the officiating was not exactly rushing to protect her the way rookies with that kind of spotlight usually get protected, and that is the exact moment Cunningham stepped into the picture, not as a mentor figure giving quiet advice in the locker room, but as someone who physically inserted herself into situations, someone who made it clear that cheap shots at her teammate were not going to happen without a response, and that kind of protection builds something different than a normal teammate relationship. It builds trust that gets tested in real time, not trust built on paper or built in a marketing meeting, and that early bond only got stronger as the months went on, because these two kept showing up for each other in ways that were impossible to fake. And then came the moment that changed everything. The one clip that basically every sports fan in the country has now seen whether they follow women's basketball or not. The confrontation with Dana Bonner, the one where Cunningham stood her ground and pointed directly at her for what felt like an eternity, staff eventually having to step in and walk her off the court because she simply would not back down. And normally a clip like that stays inside the basketball world. WNBA highlights rarely break out into the wider internet, but this one did. It spread into spaces that have zero interest in the sport, comedy accounts, meme pages, sports debate shows that never touch women's basketball, political commentary channels, all of it. And suddenly Sophie Cunningham was not just a solid rotation player anymore, she was a cultural moment. And here is a stat that puts this into real perspective. By the end of 2025, Google's year in search rankings had her sitting at number 7 among all athletes in the entire country, not just women's basketball, all athletes, and she was the only woman in that top 10, ahead of Clark herself in pure search volume. And that is not something a publicist can manufacture. That is raw, organic curiosity from millions of people who typed her name into a search bar because they needed to know who she was. And that is the actual foundation the shoe deal is built on. Not just her scoring average, not just her role on the roster, but a genuine cultural moment that shoe companies dream about capturing. And Adidas clearly saw that too, because this deal is not some throwaway marketing favor. It marks the first WNBA player exclusive the brand has released since Candace Parker. And if you know anything about how these companies operate, that is not a small signal. that tells you the brand is thinking about this as a long-term investment in her image, not a one-time press release. And once that context is on the table, the shoe itself starts making a lot more sense. A hot pink to white gradient design with light blue mesh panels and orange accents on the midsole, loud, confident, exactly the kind of design that matches how she plays on the court, and Clark clearly loved it. She talked about the colorway. She encouraged fans directly to check it out the second it releases. She reposted content about it to her own massive following. And for someone with her reach, that is not a small gesture. That is real commercial weight being handed over voluntarily. And look, plenty of athletes say nice things about their teammates in press conferences because it is expected. It is basically part of the job, generic, safe, forgettable, but this was different. This felt personal. This felt like someone who genuinely wanted to see a friend win, not because she had to say something nice, but because she believed the moment actually mattered. And that authenticity is exactly what set off the next wave of reactions online. Because the second this started trending, a very specific corner of the internet did not take it well at all. Comment sections filled up fast, and the criticism followed a pattern you have probably seen 100 times before. People calling it forced, calling it manufactured hype, insisting Cunningham had not earned any of this attention, some going as far as predicting the shoe would flop no matter how much promotion it got, as if none of the momentum behind it actually mattered. And if you have spent any time in sports comment sections, you already know this script by heart. It is the same recycled argument every single time a role player gets a spotlight moment. Nobody wants to buy a shoe from someone averaging single-digit points. This is just favoritism between friends. These two are just boosting each other because they are close. And on the surface that criticism sounds like it is about basketball, about stats, about who deserves what. But if you actually sit with it for a second, it starts to reveal something else entirely, because underneath all of that noise is a much simpler frustration. Some fans are annoyed that Clark keeps elevating people around her while other players around the league, players with longer resumes, more accolades, more years of proven production, have never gotten anywhere close to this kind of attention from anyone, let alone from the single biggest star in the sport. And that frustration is not completely irrational either. There probably are players who have quietly put up better numbers for years without ever getting a signature shoe conversation, but here is the thing. That frustration is being aimed at the wrong target entirely, because the anger should not be directed at two teammates who built a real bond and are now benefiting from that bond publicly. This is not some corporate conspiracy designed to snub other players. This is just what happens naturally when someone with enormous cultural gravity decides to shine a light on somebody else. And here is where it gets even more interesting, because while one half of the internet was busy being furious, the other half was doing the complete opposite, hyping this thing up like a concert ticket. Drop, fans counting down the days until July 24th, already planning to buy multiple pairs the second the site goes live at midnight. And this is not just any fan base either. This is one of the most commercially aggressive fan bases in the entire league right now. These are the same people who filled arenas in cities that had never once sold out a WNBA game before Clark arrived, road games, away crowds. Cities with zero historical connection to women's basketball suddenly packed to capacity. Because people wanted to see her play, and when a fan base with that kind of buying power gets pointed toward a specific product by the exact person they follow religiously, that is not something you can just wave away with a stat line. That is real purchasing intent, and it puts a lot of pressure on the whole prediction that this shoe is destined to underperform, because if even a fraction of that fan base follows through, the sales numbers alone are going to tell a very different story than the doubters expect. And honestly, that is kind of the theme of Cunningham's entire year. People underestimating her, people reducing her to a stat line, people acting like her presence in these conversations is some kind of accident, and every single time, she has responded not with arguments, not with long social media rants defending herself, but by simply continuing to show up, continuing to be the exact same competitor whether her team is up by 20 or down by 20, continuing to be the player teammates trust in chaotic moments because she does not flinch, and that consistency is exactly why Clark trusts her the way she does. This is not a manufactured friendship built for cameras. This is a bond forged through actual conflict, actual moments where one player had to step up and protect the other with zero hesitation, and you cannot fake that kind of trust. Players around every level of sports can tell the difference between a real relationship and a performative one almost instantly, and fans eventually catch on too, which is part of why this whole story has resonated so widely, because it does not feel like a scripted marketing moment. It feels like something real happening in public, and that authenticity is honestly rare in a sports landscape that is often obsessed with brand management and controlled messaging. Most star athletes are coached to stay neutral, to avoid getting too tangled up in a teammate's business ventures because it could complicate their own sponsorship situations. But Clark clearly decided that protecting her own polished brand mattered less than showing up loudly for someone who has shown up for her, And whether you love that decision or find it frustrating, you have to admit it says something about her priorities, and it also says something about how this new era of women's basketball is developing. Because this entire saga only exists because women's basketball has reached a level of mainstream visibility that simply did not exist a few years ago. A single viral clip from a regular season game reaching political commentary accounts and meme pages that have never discussed the sport before, that is a byproduct of a much bigger cultural shift happening in real time, more cameras, more attention, more crossover interest from people who normally would never watch a WNBA broadcast, and once that spotlight exists, everything that happens inside it gets magnified. A friendly gesture between teammates turns into a headline, a signature shoe announcement turns into a week-long debate, and a single viral moment turns a role player into a top 10 search trend nationally, and honestly, that magnification cuts both ways, because it means genuine, human moments like this one get scrutinized far more intensely than they probably deserve. Every gesture gets picked apart, every friendly comment gets analyzed for hidden motives, every business deal gets treated like some grand conspiracy instead of just two people supporting each other, and that is probably the most exhausting part of being under this kind of spotlight. Knowing that even something as simple as hyping up a friend's new shoe is going to get dissected from 100 different angles by people who were not even watching the sport a year ago. But here is the thing about all that noise, it does not actually change what is happening in reality. The shoe still drops on July 24th, the design still looks sharp, the cultural momentum behind Cunningham is still very real, and the endorsement from the biggest name in the league is still sitting right there in plain sight for anyone paying attention, and no amount of comment section arguing is going to rewrite any of that. Because at the end of the day, this story was never really about a shoe. It was about two teammates who built something real through actual adversity, who backed each other up when it mattered most, and who are now choosing to be loud about that support instead of quiet, instead of playing it safe, instead of pretending like personal relationships do not matter in a league that is often reduced purely to stats and box scores. And if you strip away every single layer of debate, every argument about who deserves what, every prediction about sales numbers, what you are left with is honestly pretty simple. 1. Athlete believing in another, publicly, without hesitation, in a sports world where that kind of loyalty is rarer than people would like to admit. And if the last year has taught us anything about Sophie Cunningham specifically, it is that betting against her has consistently been the wrong move, because she has built her entire reputation on showing up exactly when people expect her to fade into the background. And this moment, this shoe, this wave of criticism and hype colliding all at once, is just the latest chapter in that same story. So mark your calendars for July 24th, because whether you are rooting for this thing to succeed or waiting to say you called it, this is clearly not going away anytime soon. And if this whole situation has taught us anything, it is that the loudest debates in sports right now are not always about who scores the most points. Sometimes they are about who shows up for who when it actually counts, and that is a story worth paying attention to no matter which side of the debate you land on.